is for you. Welcome to Over Coffee. I'm Beth Cannon. Here on Over Coffee, we talk with artists and innovators about the process of changing the world in terms of what they do. And welcome to a special edition of Over Coffee. We are live recording today from Pipe and Thimble Publishing and Bookstore here in the city of Bonita. Yay! And if you'd like to come down, we are at 24830 Narbonne Avenue. We're going to be doing this today with a live discussion panel, two special guests who are going to be teaching mini workshops after this panel ends, and this is the intersection of art and science. Now, what exactly is that? Well, you kind of remember back when we were in school, art was fun, fluffy, great time, and everybody said you're never going to make a living with it. You're wrong. And science was sort of kind of, well, get through it and endure it, is what I'm thinking, and math was, yikes, the math monster. Well, the Maker movement has changed all that. Today we're going to be talking about the ways it can transform education and the future. So, joining me right now, Audrey Love, who is a professional artist and Instructable's DIY content creator for 5 years, a completely awesome creative person. I hope I'm not forgetting much of anything. You have the Robot versus Future Collective, and just overall can teach you to make almost anything in the world that you want. Audrey, welcome.
Thank you so much. You really flatter me.
No, I do not. I've seen your work. It's amazing.
Thank you.
And Sylvia Martinez, who is an electrical engineer, the creator of one of the creators of our current GPS system. Wow. Co-author of Invent to Learn. And I'm sure that I'm also forgetting something else. I remember that you're past president of the Generation Yes. And I don't believe we have enough time to give all the credits of you, but this is going to be amazing. You're going to be teaching a workshop later today about Maker movement.
Yes, thank you so much.
Welcome. What I'd like to know, first of all, is how did each of you get where you are? Audrey, what came first for you, art or loving to make things?
Probably loving to make things. My grandma and mom, grandmas plural, both were very active with knitting needles, sewing, craft, like what's considered traditional craft artisan stuff. But I was around it, I was submerged in it. I was picking threads for my one grandma and like helping the other one, you know, ball yarn. So like I was around it, exposed to it from a very early age. And I think once I started expressing my own interest in it, in being creative and producing, you know, crafty things, I had a very supportive network that was just like gave me as much as I could get my hands on, so I'm grateful for that.
How much fun does that sound? When did you realize that art was what you really wanted to do after coming from a maker background?
When I started failing all my business classes in college. No, I always did very, very well in math and science, but I got to a differential equations class for my business statistics program, and I was like, nope, done here. And that was like kind of my edge, and then I totally shifted gears and went to art school instead.
I don't blame you for reacting that way, differential equations. Sylvia, how about you? Which came first for you? Loving to make things, loving to be an engineer, or loving to be an arts advocate, which I completely forgot to say that you were an advocate for education and making in the classroom.
Well, I grew up in a household that had a combination of crafts and engineering. My dad was an auto mechanic and a welder. My mother was a crafter, sewing, knitting. I have to say that the craft part was not something that I really was attracted to, but I was good at school. I mean, just like you said, and my parents expected me to go to college, so they steered me towards engineering because my uncle had done it. So it turned out to be a really good fit for me. I liked solving problems. I liked math and science. I liked feeling competent, like you could do anything. And coming into education, it really took me a long time to realize that being good in school is a very specific kind of a round peg in a round hole. And that there are lots of other ways of knowing, and there are lots of other ways of understanding, and that we could make science and math so much better for so many more people if we accepted that.
Well, so many of us are not round pegs and round holes when it comes to differential equations, and for science and for math. So what are a lot of the mistakes that both of you are seeing the schools making right now, other than thinking everybody is cookie cutter same, in teaching these subjects?
I think there's some type of like allowing self-limiting to happen in students, and not allow like individualized attention to how students want to learn. Because especially at younger ages, it's very clear how students learn best, and then fostering that trajectory from there on a lot of different levels, and presenting, giving access to exposure and opportunity earlier is what I think the biggest way education can grow, is just to present all this much earlier.
And engaging earlier, what do you think, Sylvia? How would you engage somebody who, unlike you, is not very good at engineering?
Well, I think that all kids are good at what they do. It's letting them do the things that they find interesting, not in a haphazard way, not in a just sort of wandering off, everyone's going to discover everything, but in creating environments for learning and shaping the learning environment so that children run across these big questions that they are capable of answering at their age. And I think what some of the Maker Movement stuff does is bring real tools and technology to younger and younger people, not just students, but people that open up these big areas of interest, like computer programming, like understanding technology, wearables, and accepting that students are different. You said that, let's not do this cookie cutter. I run into so many kids who don't think that what they're interested goes with school. I actually show an Instructable in my keynotes, but I don't show it for the project. I show it for the comments. The bio of the person who wrote it said, like, "Hi out there world, I'm 14 years old, I love engineering, I love teaching about electronics, and I've asked thousands of teachers, do you think that Todd's teachers knows this about him?" And they all shake their head. They're all sadly shake their head. Why would he expect that he could bring that interest to school? And if that answer is, well, that's not what belongs in school, we're just totally looking at the wrong end of this problem.
That's scary when you say that Todd's teachers are not going to know that about him, because I would think that you would have to know exactly what appeals to him to know how you're going to engage his imagination.
Well, I think there's one of the problems in school today is we're trying to do a lot of things efficiently, rather than acknowledging how people really learn. So it looks like the right answer to make everybody learn the same thing at the same day at the same time. It looks like the right answer to put out a guide that says the teacher should say this on October 17th at 4 p.m. And if they say that, then all the kids will learn that. And it's like, yeah, but that's not what happens. But it's efficient. It's like this weird thing of we'd rather do the wrong thing efficiently than do the right thing that's difficult.
Wow. Well, Audrey, what about your experience with those differential equations? What was, as much skill as you have, as much ability as a maker, what was happening that you just said, no way, not me?
At that time, there wasn't being space made for me to have a critical dialogue with my instructor, for me to be able to say, hey, this style of learning isn't working for me, and I would go spend time with tutors and try and pick up as many other styles of education and expose myself to as many educators as I could to try and get on track with it. And I was like, okay, this is my critical thinking abilities are not here yet, and it was I'm the type of person that wants to be good at everything, and so it was really heartbreaking for me to be like, have to admit that. But it also presented a way for me to be really critical of myself in that moment and be like, okay, how can I apply everything that I love doing and am good at into something that I will continue to see growth in, and that ended up being the more creative side of stuff.
Please share the story of how you applied what you love doing and you're good at. It would seem to be just about everything. How you got into Instructables.
They're twofold. So I, for many years, was working for the Burning Man organization as an art installer, and that was really because I was living in Reno, and it was Burning Man was really truly in my backyard. It was very close, and it was easy to get to. And I took a job with their art department out there and began learning about industrial arts and how very large-scale art and science and site specificity and really just an intellectual playground for people to just express what they're great at. And it was really amazing confidence booster to be around all of these creative people from all over the world doing all kinds of crazy stuff and teaching each other how to do it all at the same time. And I was really fortunate to be exposed to so many different styles of art and science at once while I was still in school and in college. And so I was able to redirect my educational trajectory. I went to videography and later digital media and sculpture, and was able to take on, you know, really all the things that piqued my interest. And I was like, what does it mean to be good at this, and what do I learn about science, and what do I learn about the world through learning these processes? And it's been amazing, like metalworking and just like what goes into that and what it's meant for history, and like everything that comes with the knowledge of learning how to do something is really what keeps me going.
What's one of your absolute, other than metalworking, one of your absolute favorite lessons about science that you came up with for Bird Band?
One was like a literal science experiment. There was a gentleman, I think the name of the art group that did it was called False Prophet Laboratory, but it wasn't Prophet, P-R-O-P-H-E-T, it was P-R-O-F-I-T. So they were like a crack science group presenting science as art, which was wonderful. And it was like, they were literally putting in a contained space, blowing bubbles with hydrogen gas in them, and then taking an electric torch to them and watching them explode in this like contained environment. Amazing. And then I was like, these things can mix, and there is room for excitement and education along the way. Because the whole time this guy was running this very performative science explanation, it was like a PBS special gone very sideways and presented to adults in silly outfits. It was wonderful.
The play and fun element.
Yeah.
And so from there on to Instructables?
Yeah, from there on to Instructables, I actually, a close contact of mine working from that arts organization, knew a lot of folks that was working at Instructables, and I was working as a graffiti buffer for the city of Reno at the time, and I was like, I had to look up how to remove a kind of enamel from Portend steel, spray paint from steel basically, and it's at the bottom of the Instructable page I found how to remove spray paint was a giant flashing "we're hiring" sign, and I cold called, emailed them, had an interview a week later, 2 weeks later moved to San Francisco, but all along I had no idea that there was people advocating for me to get that job until after I was hired.
I would certainly encourage anybody looking on Instructables.com to check out your page, Audrey Obscura, because you have everything there. I like your gift of the cat, the pizza, as I mentioned before the recording, but you also have bread baking, you have photography, you have a vertical garden. It's like, what don't you have? Sylvia, how did you first discover the fun element, as Audrey just did, of not only teaching, but also of science, the play element?
So I've always thought of science as being fun. A lot of people at a much younger age than you run into math and go, that's it, I'm done. I always found it interesting. I always found it like a puzzle, and science was just this cool exploration of the world. And I think a lot of people do see it. I mean, the popularity of science videos, of Shark Week, of science websites is enormous, and yet somehow we've sort of sucked that fun out of school. We talk about STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, or STEAM, adding the arts. It's only because school has artificially separated all those things that now we have to talk about putting it back together. These things naturally go together. People who care about what they do automatically put their own aesthetic into it. You can't stop kids from making something beautiful if they care about it and if they have time. And those are the toughest things in school. Time is the most precious commodity. And everyone's, constantly rushing kids to do something else. And then, why would they care about something if they know the bell's going to ring and everyone's just going to stand up and walk away anyway? And no one's going to see what they do. So this idea that we can somehow force kids to do things or to learn things is just wrong. And we're taking away what they're naturally good at and naturally interested in and replacing it with something that's dull and boring. You mentioned the Invent to Learn book, Invent to Learn, Making Tinkering and Engineering in the Classroom. One of the reasons we wrote that book, Gary Stager and I, is because we started going to maker fairs. And this is an outcome of the maker movement, where people are coming together to do a show and tell. It used to happen in schools. But parents kept saying to us, look at my kid, they're building robots, they're programming, I can see they're learning, but every night I pull them away from that and we cry over worksheets.
Oh,
What's wrong? Right, it's
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. And, you know, and I know there are millions of people around the world who are working super hard to make education better for kids, and yet these parents are still being faced with a dilemma where school just seems like the opposite of learning. We drive kids
Yes.
out, you know, and we make it, we split up all these subjects and pretend that that's real world, and it's not. And we need to pull all this stuff back together, and that includes art.
What's your advice to any parent that wants to stop having their kid tear their hair out and cry over the worksheet and start getting this art and getting STEAM teaching into the schools?
So a couple of things when we talk to parent groups, and Gary and I have gone all over the world. We talk to parents, we talk to teachers. What we tell parents is, number one, trust your instincts and believe your child. Your child has a good idea. Most kids are not slacking off. They're not trying to break things or do the least amount possible. They really do want to learn. And to trust your instincts about what's right for your child, to go in and advocate for your child, and don't accept that everyone's doing it or someone's making me or it came in the workbook. That's not an acceptable answer. And you need to continue to go back into school, fight the battles to get real science and authentic experiences for your kids. And a lot of people are fighting about Common Core, right? We all know about the Common Core, standardized testing and stuff. So look, I don't like standards. I think the curriculum should grow organically from the interests of the people in the classroom, the students and the teacher. But if we've got Common Core, you can use those standards to fight the system, because they all say we should be going deeper into subjects. All the standards say we should let kids do inquiry. People are ignoring that part and enforcing the most dull parts of the standards. So either ignore them or enforce them.
And exactly, that sounds like people are doing what's easy. I hate to say easy when people are teaching, because I have a cousin who's a teacher, and it's so not easy at all. But how, as a teacher, do you implement that? Let's say I've got very little time, I've got very little money, I've got a principal who doesn't want to get away from traditional. How would a teacher implement that?
Look, that's a tough question. I would never ask a teacher to be a martyr, right, to jeopardize their job. But teachers do know the way kids learn. And movements throughout the history of teaching have always hinged on the fact that teachers believe that students learn in a much more organic, in a much more personal way than the system leads you to believe. And I think that teachers have a lot more power than they think. Teachers are very isolated. It's a very isolated profession. You go into a classroom, you close the door, you don't see another adult all day. American teachers have the least amount of professional time of any teacher in the world. Professional time meaning to talk to your colleagues, to view someone else's class, to plan your class. American teachers have